The responsibility to resist injustice for rights. Claudette Colvin.
When the civil rights movement is mentioned, several big names come to mind. People like Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., John Lewis, or Malcolm X. Another person you likely think of from the civil rights movement is Rosa Parks. Almost everyone knows her story. She worked as a seamstress in Montgomery, Alabama, and on December 1st, 1955, she refused to give up her seat on a bus to a white woman and got arrested for it.
What if I told you that, as heroic as Rosa Parks' actions were, she wasn't the first woman of color to be arrested for refusing to give up her seat on a Montgomery bus? In fact, only 9 months earlier, a different young black woman named Claudette Colvin found herself in the same situation, and may have even inspired Rosa Parks to do what she did. Claudette Colvin might not have the same name recognition as Rosa Parks, but without her bravery, the Montgomery bus boycott might have never even gotten off the ground. In March 1955, 15-year-old Claudette Colvin, inspired by her studies of Black history and civil rights, refused to give up her bus seat to a white woman in Montgomery, Alabama, asserting her right to equal treatment and challenging segregation. Her courageous stand highlighted the responsibility to resist injustice and helped spark the Montgomery bus boycott and the civil rights movement.
Legalizing racial segregation.
Although they said separate but equal, it was everything separate and unequal. Color signs was tacked on the door of restaurants. They was in stores. We had to go to the color section just to get an ice cream cone.
Claudette Colvin was born on September 5, 1939, in Birmingham, Alabama. She attended a school for African Americans called Booker T. Washington High School and really loved her English teacher, Miss Nesbitt. Colvin rode the bus home from school regularly and was used to sitting in the back because whites sat in the front. On March 2, 1955, Colvin had paid her fare and was riding the bus home after school. Although African Americans were usually required to sit in the back of the bus, she took a seat in the middle. If the seat was not already occupied by a white person, people of color could sit there. The bus stopped and several people got on. The bus filled up, but Colvin didn't notice. A white woman was left standing. Colvin was staring out of the window and did not hear the driver yelling until they stopped moving. At the station, a pregnant black woman named Ruth Hamilton got on. She had no idea that the driver was angry and sat down right next to Colvin. The driver told them both to get up, but Hamilton said she did not feel like standing. The driver then asked some of the men in the back to stand so she could sit. Hamilton slowly stood up and walked to the back. Colvin stayed. She would not get up.
Were you afraid?
Was I afraid? No, I was a teenager. Fear didn't come on me right then. Fear didn't hit my mind until I was locked in the jail.
Colvin said of that moment, "History kept me stuck to my seat. I felt the hand of Harriet Tubman pushing down on one shoulder, and Sojourner Truth pushing on the other." The bus driver complained to the local police, who boarded the bus and roughly dragged Colvin off before arresting her, making her the first person of color to be arrested for refusing to give up a seat for a white bus rider. Other people of color on the bus said Colvin resisted and fought back against the police, but Colvin said that she did not fight. Instead, she shouted about her constitutional rights being violated. On the way to the police station, the policeman made rude jokes about her body, showing her the lack of respect and dignity black women were often denied during this time. Despite this cruel treatment, Colvin remained firm in her belief that she had done the right thing by standing up for her rights. She went to trial on May 6, 1955. She was charged and convicted of 3 separate crimes in juvenile court: assaulting a police officer, disorderly conduct, and violating the segregation law. The Montgomery appeals dropped 2 of the charges, leaving assaulting a police officer. As a member of the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, or the NAACP, Youth Council, Colvin was mentored by Rosa Parks. She began to study civil rights and had ambitions to be an activist fighting for equality. Following her arrest, civil rights leaders, including Dr. King, met to discuss her actions and led her to believe that she was going to bring major change to Montgomery. Her actions sparked the movement that would eventually become the Montgomery bus boycott. 381 days, during which almost no black person used the city buses, drawing attention to the segregation rules and forcing local and state populations and government to address the issue of segregation. Colvin had no idea the NAACP was considering her to be the face of the civil rights movement until she was out of consideration because she was pregnant, unmarried, and was a teenager who didn't have good hair. Rosa Parks, who was also arrested for refusing to give up her seat on a bus, would be more acceptable for the white people because she was older, soft-spoken, and had a light complexion, compared to a darker teenager who was prone to sudden outbursts and cussing. Parks was the secretary for the NAACP and was already well known and respected in the community. Even Colvin's own mother suggested she allow Parks to be the face of the movement.
Why do you think that your story has been excluded from the jigsaw puzzle of history?
They wanted to use the one that would be the image that Rosa Parks would be more acceptable to the white community than a dark complexion teenager.
Well, we hope to achieve equal rights.
Rosa Parks is the ideal candidate for the Montgomery bus boycott. She's respected in the community. She's married. She's somewhat soft-spoken. Claudette, on the other hand, was fiery.
People said I was crazy
Why?
because I was 15 years old and was defiant and was shouting it's my constitutional rights.
In June 1956, Colvin and 3 other women became deeply involved in a federal court case that challenged segregation on Montgomery buses as unconstitutional. In Browder v. Gale, a federal district court ruled bus segregation to be unconstitutional, stating that it violated the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment. Browder v. Gale was appealed to the United States Supreme Court, which affirmed and upheld the lower court's decision and ordered the city of Montgomery and the state of Alabama to get rid of segregation on buses. Although Colvin's actions were an important factor in spurring the Montgomery bus boycott and providing direction for the civil rights movement, she is often overlooked in history books, museums, and accounts of the events in the civil rights movement. It was Colvin who was one of the first to directly challenge the existing segregation laws. When you look at pictures or see videos from the civil rights movement, you often see adult men and women who are well-dressed and put together. They have become the face of the movement. However, the movement also relied on college students and teenagers who were aware of the rights guaranteed to them by the 14th Amendment as citizens of the United States. As an aspiring civil rights activist, Colvin understood that she had the responsibility to resist when rights were being violated and denied. Although she may not be widely recognized for her efforts, her attorney in the Browder v. Gale case stated, "Claudette gave us all moral courage. If she had not done what she did, I am not sure we would have been able to mount the support for Mrs. Parks. Even as a teenager, she knew nothing would change without someone taking a stand." In an interview, she stated, "As a teenager, I kept thinking, why don't the adults around here just say something? Say it so that they know we don't accept segregation. I knew then and I know now that when it comes to justice, there is no easy way to get it. You can't sugarcoat it. You have to take a stand and say, that's not right." And I did.
I survived. I do believe that Jesus was standing by me. Jesus has sent an angel to protect me because I was doing the right thing.
Colvin understood, even at a young age, that one small act of resistance and defiance could change everything. And it did.